So hey guys, Stephen Bogren here from Pro Physique. Today what I want to talk about is how much cardio should we be doing in our off season. So hey everybody, hope you're all having a great Wednesday. Obviously it's actually not Wednesday here, but been getting kind of busy, so Tuesday night I'm like, well, let's get something set up. So here I am getting ready for my no-gi jiu-jitsu stuff tonight, and I thought, man, what a good thing to talk about. Let's talk about cardio in the off season, what I like, what I don't like, what I think is appropriate, not appropriate, and kind of go from there. So what's the question? Yeah, how much cardio should I do in the off season? And as most things, everybody's favorite answer is it depends. So it depends on a whole bunch of different things. But first and foremost, number one, I think that we can talk about is, are you only doing physique sports? If you're only doing physique sports and you're in an off season and your goal is to only build, how much cardio should you be doing? Well, where I like it is probably an hour or less, right? And typically that is my goal for most of my individuals, is an hour or less of cardio. Now, why is that? Well, simply put, I want to give people the opportunity to build as much muscle as possible, right? I'm not necessarily trying to have them do a bunch of cardio. I want to make sure that stress on the body is low, that recovery is high, and we're doing the right things to promote that recovery, right? Because during an off season, we want to make sure that we are in a calorie surplus. Yes, that gives us, I think, the best chance to grow the most muscle possible, right? And I want to make sure that recovery is on point. And recovery is one of those things that a lot of people don't always pay attention to, but I want to make sure that we're doing the right things to recover from our training sessions, that we're building and repairing and adapting from our training, right? That's important to me. So what I found is that most people, they respond all right to having enough cardio, right? Some cardio. It doesn't necessarily have to be zero cardio. And I've been of the mind before that zero cardio is a great thing. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, zero cardio, woo! Hello, powerlifting. So I still think that zero cardio can be a good option for some people, right? If we're doing no cardio and maintaining weight when we go into a dieting phase, obviously that's great. We have all the cardios to work with. But if we're doing an hour or less of cardio, it's probably not a big deal, right? Then it comes down to, okay, well, what kind of cardio are we doing? Are we doing HIIT cardio? Are we doing steady state cardio? Are we doing like life activity cardio? What kind of things are we doing with that time where we're getting that cardiovascular activity, right? I'm not a huge fan of HIIT cardio at this point in time. It can be great for conditioning. If, say, we have like runs that we need to be conditioned for, we have an active job or a military job where we have PT tests, sometimes HIIT cardio can in fact be a good tool to minimize the amount of time that we have to put in cardio, but still keep our conditioning up, right? Other times we're going to use steady state. Steady state's really easy to recover from. It's very, very manageable. It's not difficult to go walk on a treadmill. It's not difficult to sit on the recumbent bike. It's not difficult to go out for a walk with the dogs or to go on a nice hike. And sometimes those things can be really, really good, right? Doing some steady state cardio can be great, especially if we're going outside, we're getting some sun, with a little bit of green exercise, a little bit of stress management. Like, that stuff can be great. So I think that it definitely has its benefit. There's no doubt about that. I don't know that it would be a wise decision for me to argue that cardio absolutely has some benefits. So yeah, absolutely. Having some semblance of cardio, and even if you are just a physique competitor, can definitely still add some benefit. And that might be one of those things where I was to be like, I might feel a little bit different about that now than I did, say, a year ago, right? Now, if we are doing other things, right? If we're a cyclist, if we want to compete in jiu-jitsu, we want to do other active things where we're still enjoying our time, cardiovascular activity is going to just be higher. If I want to roll 3 or 4 days a week, that's cardio. That is physical activity. That's work. It's calorie expenditure, right? And so, if that's something that's important to me, I have to account for that within my allotted macros, my recovery time, those kinds of things. It's not easy. When I first started and I was there a lot and I was rolling and I wasn't good, I was getting my ass beat all the time, like that's a lot of calorie expenditure, and it made recovery super difficult. I would get, up in the morning, I'd still be kind of sore. Now, did I eventually get used to it? Yeah. Has it probably come down a bit? Yes, absolutely. I would say jiu-jitsu is one of those weird things where when you get better, you actually utilize less calories because you're using more technique, right? And so that's definitely just things you want to consider. Do you have an active job? Are you a firefighter or a paramedic? Are you in the military to where you have to pass those PT tests, right? All those things are important, right? And so maybe we don't have a PT test coming up yet, but we know that they're in the future, and maybe we want to up cardio a little bit to go into that so that we make sure that we score high enough. But making sure that we're keeping in mind what are the other things that we like to do. If you're a triathlete, well, I mean, it doesn't make sense if you're a competitive triathlete to cut cardio. We need that cardio. We need to keep you conditioned for your sport. So just like with bodybuilding, right, our goal is probably to minimize cardio as much as possible so we have room to work with cardiovascular activity to create a deficit when we go into a dieting phase. Whew, lots of big words. But that might not always be realistic. That might not always be the case. Because aside from the bodybuilding stage, there's this whole life that's going on around you. There's these people that you love, there's these things that you love, and there's all these different aspects of your personality that we want to make sure that we're paying attention to. And so if cardiovascular activity is part of that, we have to make sure that we allot for that. We have to make sure that we know, okay, hey, let's plan for this. Now, I definitely think that there's a point in time where things probably don't, benefit one another, right? Like being a triathlete and trying to be a bodybuilder might not be the best pair of dual sports, right? But being a powerlifter and a bodybuilder probably go pretty well together. It's worked well for me at least. Doing jiu-jitsu and these other sports has worked pretty okay for me thus far at least. So being an endurance athlete might not necessarily be the most beneficial, but does it mean that we can't do it? Does it mean that we can't still kind of walk the line and do a little bit of both? Absolutely not. We just have to be very smart about what we're doing, how we're recovering. The big thing I think is that word I just said, recovery, right? If we're not recovering, if we're not getting better, that tells us that we're doing something wrong. We're either doing too much training, too much cardiovascular activity, not enough food, something. We have to reassess at some point what we're doing if our recovery is consistently being compromised. All the training in the world is useless if we can't recover from it. So I think when it comes down to how much cardiovascular activity is too much, your recovery is typically going to tell you, right? Now, yes, if we're going to get onto the bodybuilding stage, we want room to work with. We want tools in the toolbox, right? Am I driving or am I turning a wrench? I don't know. But we want tools in the toolbox to work with. We want to have calories that we can cut from. We want to have cardio at a point where we can add cardio and then we can get to said body composition that we need to compete on stage. So it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. But we want to make sure, as long as we have some tools in the toolbox, it's okay to be utilizing maybe some of them. We just don't want to have all our tools out and about, right? So that's where I am currently feeling about how much cardio should you be doing on your off season. It depends. It depends. How close are you to your next show? Are you a dual athlete? Are you going to compete in other sports? Are there things that you enjoy? Can we use it for stress management? It depends on a whole slew of things. So I hope that helps. I'm sure it doesn't, but I'll leave it there. Y'all have a great day.